What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel, check out the content. And I want to go over recent reports of Stephen A. Smith and Pat, what's his name? Pat McAfee. Seem like they beefing again, and it's people are trying to say that Stephen A. Smith is trying to ruin Pat McAfee's show. So what happened was what's going on now is that there are reports that Stephen A. Smith is making it hard for Pat McAfee to book basketball analysts for his show to come on to the Pat McAfee show and to make, to give their commentary on the NBA. Recently, Kendrick Perkins was supposed to have shown up to the Pat McAfee show, and he didn't show up. Now, he was on there a few times, a couple times before he went to the show and gave his report on different topics as far as the NBA concerned. But the last time he was supposed to go into the Pat McAfee show, he didn't show up. And so Pat McAfee said that it's harder than what he thought it would be. He thought it would really be easy to access, since both of these guys work for ESPN. He thought it would be easier to access these, NFL or NBA analysts, but not so easy because they think Stephen A. Smith, because he's jealous of Pat McAfee, don't want those analysts going on to the show. And so if the NBA analysts go on to the show, then maybe Stephen A. Smith will cut them off of his show. Who knows? Maybe he's using that kind of leverage. The only other analyst who really goes on to Pat McAfee's show from time to time is Austin Rivers. That's Doc Rivers' son, right? And so now I was thinking that why would ESPN allow Stephen A. Smith to place this type of roadblock in front of Pat McAfee? Then it occurred to me, Pat McAfee, because of his large audience and the following that Pat McAfee has leverage. And so ESPN may be siding with or allowing Stephen A. Smith to use that leverage to kind of bring Pat McAfee down a peg or so. Because as far as the NBA is concerned, or the NFL is concerned, Pat McAfee can get NFL players to come on to his show because Pat McAfee has a lot of NFL contacts, and a lot of people dig Pat McAfee from him just being around the NFL. So he'll be able to get access to NFL players. But I'm thinking that if I'm Pat McAfee, how would I get around this issue, right? Number one, I think that Pat McAfee should go directly to the source and interview NBA players instead of going after the analysts. Because if you go after the analysts are going to come from Stephen A. Smith's show to Pat McAfee's show and basically repeat the same content that they said over there. So why not try to bring on NBA players? And if you think about it, a lot of the NBA players don't even really dig Stephen A. Smith anyway. So I think Pat McAfee should go directly to the source, to the players, whenever he can get a player on his show, and just interview those people, interview those guys. Because a lot of those guys. I mean, I just did a broadcast where I said that Kevin Durant just called Stephen A. Smith a clown. And I've heard, I know that a few other NBA ball players they're not really feeling Stephen A. Smith. So I'm sure that Pat McAfee will be able to get around this situation and have some NBA ball players come onto a show and, give interviews and give their insight into the game. So, if I'm Pat McAfee, that would be my next step. And I wouldn't allow Stephen A. Smith to hold up my progress or mess with my show. But I'm curious to think, like, what do you think? Do you think that Stephen A. Smith is correct in trying to slow down Pat McAfee's progress on his show or interrupt, the flow on his show? Or do you think that, that Stephen A. Smith should just get out the way and just let, let Pat McAfee just do his thing. I don't think Pat McAfee. Now, if it's a situation where Pat McAfee is trying to block football players, you know, to going on Stephen A. Smith, which I don't think that's the situation, because Stephen A. Smith always have football. You know, they got football analysts on the show too. That's, you know, that Stephen A. Smith, you know, he interviewing stuff like that, and they give their commentary on stuff like that. So I think that the network is allowing us to go on between Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, but Pat McAfee can get around that. Like I said, if I'm Pat McAfee, I'll just interview the basketball players anyway, especially the players that don't really dig Stephen A. Smith. Man, that will really, you know, because certain players won't come on to Stephen A. Smith, you know, certain basketball players won't come on to Stephen A. Smith's show because of some things that Stephen A. Smith said about him. But I bet you if they given an opportunity to go to Pat McAfee show, they may even do that. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Let me know what you think about this situation between Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. With that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will check you all out on the next video. Peace.